seems legit.
Hello Legitimates, welcome back to my channel. Once again, we are making a dress. I love this dress. It has shearing. I actually am now thinking that I have possibly done this video before, but whatever. I love this dress. This was a clearance fabric. It is like cheesecloth, but I'm pretty sure it's a polyester. It's got shearing around the waist. It's got my awesome crisscross straps. So let's go get started. Here's all my pieces. Now I bought this from an op shop, this pattern, so I did not cut out the actual paper pattern. I actually hate doing this. I prefer to use tracing stuff, but since it was already cut, there's no point in wasting such an opportunity. So I've cut two of these pieces, which are on the fold. And I'm going to overlock all the pieces first and then sew them. I just find that easier. I also have to be careful not to stretch this fabric, as it does have a bit of give to it. This is it's like a cheesecloth type fabric. I'm pretty sure it was polyester though. Which is okay, because the type of dress I'm making, I'm not going to die during summer from heat exhaustion in this dress. And most of what you get off online is usually polyester anyway. I'm going slow for two reasons. One is because I want this not to stretch out of shape, and two, because it's going to bounce. And I'm going to just chop this one off and pop it through. And we're going to go back and forth, and if I do this now, makes it easier later. What we don't want to do is pull on it like this. It's going to stretch the fabric out of shape. Talking over this because it's quite loud. If I press down, it stops the jumping. Alright, so I have overlocked the whole top piece, and so now I'm actually going to start with my straps. So I'm just going to pop this under. I am on a straight stitch of 2.5, and I'm making sure that the needle's in the middle so that I get an accurate thing, and then off we go. So I'm just going to stitch forward and reverse. I'm going to put pressure so that it stops bouncing. to grab the second one, fold it in half. Now these are, I've actually lost the piece that tells me how big I need to make these. So I've just made them like randomly long lengths, and I will trim them down as I go because I think that that's going to be easiest. Now these I didn't overlock because I didn't want them to be too thick. I really need to stop the bouncing. I also made sure that the stretch went across and not this way. Because otherwise, these straps are going to go real wonky real fast. Alright, next one. This one hasn't been ironed in half. So it's going to take a little bit extra. You could also use ribbon. I did think about using ribbon for these, but this shade of pink's too hard to match. Pushing it down so it doesn't bounce. I will come up with a solution, but not today because I prefer to sew. In half, line it up. Last one, so you should have 4 of these. This is actually a very quick dress. I love this. I've got 2 of them. This will be 3. I definitely want them in more colors. I always get complimented on how wonderful I look in this dress, and it's literally no effort and no bra. Makes me very happy. Now, obviously, if you wanted to, you could actually add like a built-in kind of bra thing. We just slip them between the layers. I don't have any here at the moment, but I might be able to do it in another one. In half, and you can pull on this and stretch it because it's not going to stretch the grain. Okay, so now that I've done that, I have to turn them through, but we also have to think about how much excess there is. So I'm going to grab my zigzag scissors, or pinking shears, whatever you prefer to call them, and there we go. So I have them all separate. I'm going to trim down that excess, and then I'm going to turn them through probably with my turning stick. Alright, pinking shears or zigzag scissors. And I'm just going to obviously make sure you cut the right edge. And I didn't want to overlock these. I feel like it would make them too thick. And we want nice dainty straps, which is why you could definitely use ribbon. If you made this dress in black, 100% use black ribbon. I'm just cutting off most of it while still giving myself a little bit of gap between the cutting and the stitches. But all this here is just unnecessary for the little spaghetti straps. Now, lots of people have a different way they make these. I did see one thing, and I probably should have done it, but it's too late now. You can put a piece of thread inside and then stitch one end to help you pull it through easier. So I'm going to take my turning stick and put it this side up. And then, because this is stretchy fabric, I think this will work out just fine. I'm going to hold it and then just push it over the stick to turn it through. Now, the reason I like to have it between my legs is so I can hold it. Doing it just here is way harder. And then you want to just grab the outside layer and kind of maneuver it down. The first bit's always the easiest, and then sometimes, like now, it gets a bit stuck on itself. You just want to help pull it through. So I've grabbed a bit here, I can push it and then pull the other. This hand's kind of pulling the other side, so we go one side, other side. And the tugging kind of helps turn it through. And once you get it all the way through like this, life becomes much, much easier. Sometimes you can just push the stick through. Doesn't always work though, as you can see here. So you grab the outside layer only, and then I'm just going to do like this push-pull motion. I'm doing this as a smaller scale to help it get through, because sometimes it really does just get stuck on itself. Back and forth, back and forth. And so now we're turned through and the end's actually here. So we're getting closer to having it all the way through. If you don't have one of these sticks, you should get one. But in the meantime, you can push them through with like a safety pin. Oops, and then we're through. Because I didn't sew off the end, that is now completely turned through. I'm going to do the other three off camera, because otherwise we'll be here forever watching. But we now have like a quite wide spaghetti strap, but still cute. Alright, they are now all turned through, which is wonderful. So I now have all these tubes. So I'm going to take one of my main top body pieces. I'm not sure if there's a right and a wrong side. So I'm just going to join them together at that back short seam. So the seam allowance on this, I believe, is 5/8. I am, however, just going to do 1/2 because I don't think it's going to matter all that much. Line up those bits. Stitch that closed there. And then we're going to grab the second piece, which I'm using as a lining. I am just lining it with itself. If you were doing a bold print, you may want to consider, like if it was white and dark and very contrasty, you may want to consider doing just a white or nude lining in the same style of fabric. But that has now created our loop, which is exactly what we need. Chop it off, chop it in half. So the top is now a really big loop. So from here, you can open that out. I might even stitch it. Oh, no, it's all right. So from here, I'm going to grab, actually, we might top stitch these so they sit nicer. I do love a good flat loop. This does take longer, but I do think it'll be worth it if I can get it to shuffle along there at all. So I'm just going to roll the seam to the side here, and we're going to top stitch both of them flat. This will just help with ironing further down the track, because if I'm being honest, I don't actually iron my clothes. They come out of the dryer and go straight into the cupboard. So by doing this, it's going to help keep my straps nice and neat. Even though this is quite a bendy fabric. Just because it's wrinkled does not mean I need it to be twisting as well. That is what this is going to avoid. also want to go on the other side. This side will be easier because I've already stitched the other side. Get rid of that thread. Now again, this hand is just holding this so it stops bouncing. One done. So that looks nice and flat now. It's going to look less like a loop. And again, you could use ribbon and avoid all of this. You could also, instead of creating a loop and turning them through, I could have also ironed them like double fold bias. This type of fabric though, that would have been much more tricky, which is why I've done it this way. I do have a really pretty green and white satin that I think would look really pretty as this dress. If I do end up making that, I will be double folding those. I feel like I would cut 1.5 inch strips and then double fold it like a bias to have 3/4 inch strips. Or no, 3/8 of an inch strap. Nice and skinny. So again, I'm just making sure I get it on that side seam. And the first side always takes longer no matter what you're doing. But this is worth the effort. Stitching them now will save a lot of ironing time later in life. Because without doing this to your straps, I feel like you'd have to iron them every time you want to wear it. And nobody wants to do that, really. I will finish the rest off camera. Give me a second. Right, they are now all stitched and wonderful. So I'm going to take one of the top halves and I'm going to come to here and we are going to place all of our straps attached at this back V section here. So we might even put it right sides up. And then face these down. So I'm going to put the first one here and then we're going to mirror that on the other side. I'm just going to tack that to the edge like so, and then we'll grab another one and I'm going to fold this over so that then they are perfectly aligned. Now instead you could also measure these, but that looks perfectly in half, so I'm going to tack that one. You could also pre-pin all of these and then just do one lot of stitching, but where's the fun in that? It's so much more fun to just wing it. Trim off the tails, pop them in the bin. So there's two. Then I'm going to grab the third one and we're going to place it right next to, but with a little bit of a gap. Now again, you can put them right next to each other, but I think it's going to look better with a bit of a gap. Stitch and back stitch. Needle up, trim it off. This is purely so I don't have to pin anything, by the way. That's why I'm doing it this way. So then we're going to take this one and place it down, and then we're going to fold it in half again to make sure that everything is lined up where I want it. So to do that, you can just place it on there, and then when you bring these together, it will be perfectly lined up. So this is going to give us a cool crisscross look. Okay. Trim off all those random tails. It's looking quite a bit messy, to be honest. All right, so we're going to put all of those inside the loop like that. And then I'm going to take this one here and we are going to match it up right sides together. I'm going to open this seam out so it's flat and then join that one at the seam so it looks amazing. And we are going to stitch around, all the way around. I, again, am going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but you can ultimately use whatever you like. You should also pin it if you're new to clothes making. I instead am going to grab the corner and the corner, hold them together with this hand, join them up, and then bring it back. This will ensure that it's basically using my hand as a pin. And I'm going to backstitch there. We need to leave the top bit open so that I'll be able to wear it. So you can now flip it over, and I'm going to do the other back bit. So again, join up these edges. If you want to, you can of course pin it and do it all at once. I am not actually the boss of you, so if you wish to pin it instead, by all means go ahead. I'm just running over some of the older stitches to make sure everything's going to work. And then when I get to that seam, I'm going to make sure the needle is down and pivot up this way. That's just going to make it extra neat. And again, line up this. You can basically stretch it so it joins, pinch in the middle, and then I bring this hand over and do this section. And when we get to here, readjust. I know it seems more fiddly, but it's also a lot less pins you have to put in and out. Now I'm not stretching this, we don't want to pull it out of shape. Back stitch, trim the tail off, maybe, these scissors are blunt. Now we're going to join the front section. Stitch and back stitch to lock it in, make sure the V needle down for the center bottom part of the V, and then we're going to line up this edge. Now to make sure that that V is going to sit really nicely, we just want to make a little clip in the fabric like that, just a little one, so when we turn it through it's actually going to sit like a proper V. So we can bring out the straps now, bring them up. Now for these straps, I like to do this because I think it's pretty, but we're going to go over, under, and then under, over, like that, so that the straps have this really cute little crisscross pattern in the back of them. It's like a basket weave. So those two are still going to go that way. They're just threaded through this. So instead of them just sitting on top of each other, they are now intertwined. I find that is way prettier. I have put the effort in to do this to all of my straps because I think it's wonderful. So then from here, they are going to come up and over and into that top flat section we left. We left a bit of a gap, that was deliberate. We're going to tuck in the raw edges, and then we're going to tuck these straps in. Now I'm going to, this is the fiddly bit, you want to make sure that nothing has twisted, and they are all different sizes because that's how I did it. Don't worry about that. You can even pop your hand in underneath to thread them through like so. And so they are going to tuck in the raw edge, pull them through, right? Give them a decent amount. I will need to put this on because I don't have this pattern piece. I will have to actually try it on to make sure that I've got the right amount. I could also just measure one of my older ones, but that's not gonna help you guys if you don't have that. So again, I'll pull these down so that they match, like that. So they crisscross, making sure that they're flat, and then we're going to put these other two, again, making sure that they're flat, into the other side. And then we're going to get some pins for this. So here's the other side here. So it's the other kind of point. Shove them both in. Like that. Give it a decent tug. I know it doesn't look like much, but I promise this is how I always do it. So now I'm going to try it on, and I'm going to do this off camera, but I'm going to put it on and then pull these until, well, I could probably do it on camera over my thing. It might work. So you want to have the crisscross at the back, your arms through here, try not to pull them all the way out, and then pop it over your head, making sure that the crisscrossy parts are at the back, and that you put your head through the right part. So like that, because that is how it's going to sit. Alright, so I'm just going to measure where I need the strap. So we need to pull all of this down. It's also why we do the back crisscross and not stuff with the front. And then between the two layers, I can just tug on these to see where I want them. So I actually want them, I want the dress to sit nice and high. If you have them down here, it's going to be too low. So I want the dress up like this. So again, grab the two levels and pull them through like so. So you want the dress to sit even and high, and then I will just put a pin through them and we'll come back and adjust them. Okay, I have to do a voiceover because the sound went all weird and crackly, but basically we are going to tuck in the raw edge there, and then we're going to trace up along the strap, making sure that nothing is twisted, and remembering it goes over your shoulder. So see how I've got a twist there? And we also want them, so like inside to inside and then outside strap to outside when we crisscross. So I'm just going to use a clip to hold that in place, and then we're going to grab the second one and do the same thing. So run along, make sure there's no twists, and push it to the outside part right there like that. I'm going to put the clip in the middle to hold them kind of both in place. I will also be trying it on to make sure that I get these straps at the right size. Everything's a process, but it's fine. So it's just a bit fiddly. So I'm now going to just top stitch them in place. You can also just pin them and do the top stitching in one big loop later. But since I don't know where my pins are and I only have clips, we're going to do it this way now. Stitch, back stitch. And trim off any tails that you have. And then we're just going to repeat this to the other side and we'll be all good. I am speeding up the other side, otherwise we'll be here for ages, but it is the same process. Make sure they're untwisted, tuck them in, top stitch them down, and then trim off your tails. So now that it's all happy, we are going to turn the whole thing inside out because we now need to attach our elastic. I'm also going to cut off the excess from those straps, pop them in the bin. I'm leaving about 1 inch in case they're wrong, and I am just a bit paranoid, so I give myself a little bit of extra room, but I'm sure it'll be fine. You just don't want a lot dangling down. It's going to disrupt the line of the dress. So across this side here, we are going to stop the gaping down the side of our body. So we are going to take our piece of elastic. Now I've cut one for each side, obviously, and on the pattern it shows you where it's going to go from there to there. Basically, I am going to eyeball it because I have made this dress before. For something that you've never made before, please make sure you mark where to put stuff. I just know what I'm after. So, you know, each to their own on that. So I'm going to place it in. I'm using stitch number 6 on my machine, which is a dotted zigzag. For anyone that doesn't know, that is what's best to use on elastic. So I'm going to stitch forward and then reverse a little bit, and then I'm going to stretch the elastic out. I'm going to hold the back as well so that it feeds through nicely while still stretching the elastic. And then we are going to go all the way along to get to the end, and then we're going to backstitch at the end as well. Right there. Done. Now let's repeat that with the other side. You can see that it has gathered, so I'm now just going to match it up with the other side, stretch it out. You want to stretch it about half its total stretch. You don't want it too much. It will fizzle out too quickly. Then we just turn it in the right way, and I am now going to top stitch the whole way around. I've sped this up purely because I don't talk for a lot of this anyway, and again, the volume went weird on this particular part of the video. I am pulling it. You can see me stretching it from the back where the elastic is. I'm also making sure that I am right on the edge, and I'm pulling both sides so that the seam is right at the side. This is just good practice. And then you'll see here, I'm about to stretch it again, just to make sure I get even stitches while going over the elastic. Then we're going to do the inside V as well. So you want to stop with the needle down, pivot to the top and backstitch, and then cut off all of your tails. Next up, I will be grabbing the front and back of the skirt. I have put a clip on the front piece just so I remember, and then we are going to stitch them together all down the edge. Again, I'm not using pins, but I am making sure that the bottom is going to line up, which you can see there. I also have to keep stopping my machine from bouncing. It is actually quite awkward. I need to fix that. Might be my mission today. So we're just going to stitch along. I'm using my hand as pressure onto it to stop it bouncing, which makes my stitching and sewing look weird, but it is what it is. So now let us grab the overlocker, and I'm going to overlock those together. Alright, I'm going to do it on an angle so you guys can see. This might be a bit awkward for me though, so just give me a second. Alright, I'm making sure I've got the right foot pedal, so I'm just going to pop it under. Readjust. Now this hand is also making sure that nothing kind of folds under. It has happened to me in the past. See, like here, the fabric's trying to fold under where I'm going to overlap. You also always run past to leave this extra tail and then cut it off. So now we can do the other side, and then while we're here, we can also do the top and the bottom if we wish. So again, always put the fabric on the table so it's not pulling. I'm also always making sure that this isn't kind of folding underneath. So that's what this hand does here. It's just feeling the fabric to make sure that it's not folded. The lighter the fabric, the more likely it is to do it. I have cut quite a few holes in fabric before I remembered to put my hand under here, so now it just lives there. hem along the bottom. Now, again, you want to make sure you're not pulling on this fabric. We don't want to pull it out of shape because it'll get like a weird wobble along the bottom. You also could have done this at the start and overlocked it, everything. Overlocked, not overlocked it. I'm trying really hard not to stretch it out of shape. It is quite easy to do. This is a gentle guide, this hand. It's pushing about that hard. You don't want to go too hard. But without doing it, it then pulls this way, and we don't want that. We want it to pull evenly. I'll show you what it looks like without the hand. Kind of already went crooked. More of a straight meter than anything. So that's the bottom. Let's go do the top. Now this one's got a clip on it so that we know which one's front and back. That'll be fine. We'll get to that when we get to it. Starting, I always like to start at seams, but that's just me. You're kind of just gonna drive it in. Here's my clip. I'm just gonna move it from here to there because it was just to tell me which one's the front. Always readjusting, especially soft fabric. Last little bit. You want to cross over a little bit and then just veer it out of the way. Or at least that's how I do it. Okay. That's the little bit that I chopped off. Goes in the bin. Set that aside. Never store your machines on the ground permanently. Always have them up off, especially off concrete. It can do damage. Gets like water and stuff seeping in. Okay, so here is our skirt. It is essentially a giant tube. What I am now going to do is fold it together at the seams, and then I'm going to put this clip right in the middle front. So that's middle front there. Which is going to be middle front here. Although, we should also maybe gather it. So, together, I'm going to go up to a 4-stitch length, and I am going to go to a 9 on here. We could have also used the overlocker if I was thinking, which I obviously did not. So, we are going to, I really want to overlock and gather. You can do it with a sewing machine. What we do is we stitch and back stitch, and then we're going to do a line all the way down, do 1 stitch down, and then do another line all the way back. But that seems, and then you have to gather it yourself. The overlocker will actually gather it for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut off all of this original gathering, overlocking, so that we can gather it and overlock it at the same time. To make this overlocker gather, I am just going to take the knob at the side and turn it all the way up to 2, and it has like a bit of a zigzag picture. So you just want to have it up all the way, and then we're going to gather. So top versus bottom, what do we got? So we're going to take this edge, and you're going to watch it gather. So we're just going to, again, veer in, and I'm going to cut off the original overlocking, and you can see it's already gathering. See that? Now I don't have to do it. Gathering just a little bit just means I don't have to do it. And we're back to the start. So I've chopped off all the original. It's only going to make a little bit of a difference to the length, and to be honest, I might end up making this a short one anyway. But you can see how now it's all more gathered? It's just going to help. So center front actually has a crease from where I folded it. So you can put a clip on center front like that. And then I'm going to take the gathered edge and center front is this piece here. So I'm going to fold it in half at the seams, measure it up. This is center front. I'm going to clip center front to center front, right sides together. The top doesn't really have a right side and a wrong side, but if you wanted to think about it, that's what we're going to do. So then center back as well. So we're going to find that side seam here, and the side seam over here somewhere. Where has it gone? There it is. So center back, which is here, goes to that back seam, which was like the first bit we sewed. So I'm just going to trace this around. Center back seam to there. And we need another clip. Now I'm gonna need clips. Okay, so that's now our essentially halfway point. I can now just start. I'm gonna kind of put it roughly where I think it needs to go, like that. You can also find halfway between these two and make that point there your side seam. Center of everything, right? It helps. And so then this, we're just going to loosely clip it so that all the layers are together. Here. And here. And there. So there's 1/4. Then we'll just do the next section. So we're just going to gather along. And by gather, I mean kind of loop the gathered side so it's a bit looser than the lining-y bit. Just a little bit. It's just another way to gather it without having to go and re-stitch it. You can do it the other way. This way is much, much quicker, and I am lazy. So that's got a little bit too much gather there, so then we just add a little bit more into all the other bits, like that. Just add another clip, and boom. Done. See? Gathered. And then, so I need to find center, side, clip it. And so then we just want to almost loop it. So it's just a little bit more per clip. See, just a little bit. Space it all out. This is going to look amazing. All right, last bit. Bring it up, bit of a loop, clip it down. Bit of a loop, clip it down. And this will just help gather up that extra bit without having to go and pull on it. We'd still be pulling that other thing if I did it the other way. Nobody wants that. We all just want it gathered nicely. Now, if you're using pins, you can do this more uniformed across. It's almost like making tiny, tiny little pleats. See, bring it up, clip it down. I actually prefer clips personally for gathers. I find it easier, but that's just me. Some people prefer to not, some people don't even own clips, and that's all right too. So we are now going to go to 2.5 stitch length, 4 for your tension. I'm going to slide this under, make sure my needle's up, take off one of those clips so I can get it underneath, and then 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to bring my bowl over here so I can take them off as I go, and I've got the gathers underneath. That is the wrong foot pedal. There we go. Stitch and back stitch. So you want your gathers underneath. It'll make it easier for it to actually do what it's told. Clips off. Hold it with your fingers. I'm going to take off 2 clips at a time. If I can. We are constantly arranging it so it's not going to pull. You can do 1 clip at a time. It's not going to hurt anything. I actually almost think I prefer 1 to 2. Adjust again. We're nearly all the way around. Twist all of the fabric, not just the bit you're doing. Clips, stitch. And then back stitch when we get back to the start. And now you should have a fabulous dress. We are almost done. Bring this through. So you should be able to see from the outside, see how we've got our gathers and our top and everything's looking wonderful. I always like to check to make sure nothing kind of tucked up underneath. It has happened to me in the past and I'd prefer to know now. So sometimes like this piece would have tucked up into there, leaving like this weird loop. So I always like to check because you just never know. So now I'm going to hem the bottom. And then we're going to do the elastic waist. So I'm just going to fold this up a little bit. Now you can choose what hem you want. I'm going to stitch and back stitch. And then I'm going to try really hard not to stretch this as I sew it. It can happen and it's gonna leave like a weird look, which is not what I'm after. I believe they call it a lettuce hem, where you pull on it and it does like loopy bits. I don't want that. It's not a look I want for this particular dress. It has its place. This dress is not it. I can eyeball my hem pretty well. This just comes from practice. Lots and lots of practice. But you could also just iron up your hem if that's what you'd prefer to do. Working our way around. You can also pin it if you want. I am not here to stop you at all. Alright, spin it around. It will need an iron to be flat, but I can do that at the end. Ah. The bouncing of this is driving me insane, just quietly. Bring it around. Again, bring the whole dress around. When we get back to the start, we're just going to backstitch, because we always backstitch to lock it in. And I managed to do the whole dress with one bobbin. Trim off those tails. We don't want them sticking out later. Here's the fun bit. So we're going to take out our bobbin and we're going to grab, where is my other bobbin? Now we're going to need several of these. This is, oh no, the whole thing's come undone. It's not what I wanted at all. So this is an elastic cord. This is shirring, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around and I'm going to make sure I'm not tugging on it. You want it loose and glorious. You do need several bobbins because, you know, I'm putting a lot of shirring on. So we're going to go in through the same way we normally do, like that. But our top stitch is going to go up to 4, which is as long as this can go. I'm also just going to manually chop that bit. Now, I like to do it in a very cool spiral pattern. You can do it however you want. I am going to remove this part so I can tuck everything around like this. So we're just going to come in here and I am going to start at the bottom of, or the top of the dress, at the top of the skirt, but on the bottom of the bodice. So we're going to start here. I'm going to stitch and then I'm going to back stitch, and then we are just going to sew around and around. And this will start gathering. Now you usually don't see it on your first lap. The first lap kind of looks boring. It's when we do like 2 and 3 that it gets a bit better. So I'm just stitching close to the seam, but not on it. And I'm also making sure that all of that seam is tucked towards the skirt and not where I'm stitching. I want it to be thin and fabulous. And then we're just going to constantly twist this around and around. They also had this in yellow. I'm wondering if I want to go and get it and have a yellow one of these. It would be very cute. And then we're going to stop and I'm going to grab all this fabric and twist it and then pull the bottom out and pop the top over. And we are just going to do this. You can do as many layers as you want. I like quite a few, so I think it's pretty and it holds the dress in nicely. Just one won't do it. If you just want to do one, you're better off to do actual elastic in there. The other reason I like this over elastic is it's gentle and doesn't leave a giant mark. So now that I'm back to the start, I'm going to kind of angle up so I can continue my spiral. So I'm going close to, but not on, the previous line. Twist it round. Now this shearing elastic you can actually get in a few colors. I only ever get black and white. Black for dark colored dresses, white for light colored dresses. But you can get like yellow and blue and all other kinds of crazy colors if it bothers you. It is more expensive to get the colors. And it's not really something that I feel like putting my money to. I prefer nicer fabrics. So from here, you can just do the same distance. You also want to try and have the fabric flat, so you're not creating pinches. Twist it all. I'm going to get rid of this. It keeps getting stuck on the skirt. Twist it, pull it round. So that's now 1, 2, 3 lines that I've done. I'm probably going to do 4 because see, you can see it's gathering now though. See how it's got like a nice stretch? I love shearing on dresses. I need to find a top with it in the back and make that. They're just comfortable, I find. Okay, I think I just ran out in the bobbin. I did. So I'm going to just back stitch because it's nearly out. Lift it out. Trim off. Oh, it's already trimmed. And then we're going to manually wrap it. So this is the pack that I've got here. Now, if you can, try and get it up into the bobbin hole, but it usually doesn't work for me. But we can try. Can't hurt to try. Alright, so it's now through the hole. I'm going to hold my finger on it so it doesn't move. And then you want to loosely wrap it. You do not want to put any tension on this or it defeats the purpose. Doesn't work out properly. So, loosely wrap. Now that I've kind of done that, I can chop off that bit. Makes it much easier to continue. Pull it off there, wrap around. There is no tension in my hand at all. This is the opposite of what you normally want for a bobbin. You want to get it as full as you can. Just so you don't have to do it as many times. It's like any bobbin really. That's probably full enough. Cut it off. Pop it in as normal. chop. Bobbin cap back on. A lot of machines won't work if you don't have that on. And then we need to go back in and find where we left off, which is here. I'm going to needle down, stitch, back stitch, and then continue. Making sure that the fabric's not pinching. Exactly what we don't want. I feel like 4 lines is probably enough for this. This is also a really fun alternative to elastic in pants. It's much more comfortable. It's what all like the cool hippie pants have. And then when we get back to here, I'm going to stitch, back stitch. Now I could keep going, but the wider you make it, the wider the belt you'll need if you ever want to cover it. Because you can wear waist belts with this, it's quite cute. So that is the whole dress done, but let me just show you. So from the outside, see how it's all gathered now? See how that's gathered? On the inside, all you see is the strips of elastic. So because we didn't give it tension, it's now got room to stretch. So it just brings in the waist a little bit and makes it adorable. We need to get rid of any tails left over. Obviously, nobody likes tails. But other than that, the dress is done. Super cute. I'm obsessed with this pattern. This will be dress number 3, and I'm sure to make 4 and 5. I could wear these every day of the week and still be happy. We also need to get rid of the tails from the back. Don't forget those ones. But there you go. I hope you learned something. Shearing is awesome. And let me know if you end up making a dress similar. Bye!